All right, welcome to the deep dive. You know we always love diving into the sources you send us, and today's batch is all about technology and social media. There's a ton here, so we're going to really pull out the big takeaways for you. We want to help you understand the core of how all this digital stuff is affecting our lives.
Yeah, it looks like we've got a pretty broad range of material here, lots to unpack. We're going to be looking at how we communicate these days, what's good and bad about social media, how technology is shaking things up at work, all the worries about privacy and security online, even what's on the horizon for tech in the future. Sounds exciting.
It really does. And let's just kick things off with something that's changed so much for everyone, how we actually talk to each other. I mean, think back to before we had instant messages. We were stuck with letters waiting forever for emails and landline phones that kept us tethered to one spot. It's crazy to think about now, isn't it?
It really is. Looking at your sources here, it really hits you just how quickly things have shifted. We've gone from communication that could take days or even weeks to practically instant connections. Texting, voice notes, video calls, it's all happening in real time. You even included some specific examples like WhatsApp, mostly for messaging, Messenger, which is tied to Facebook, and then Zoom, which has become the go-to for video calls. And they're all connecting people across the planet. It's pretty amazing.
It is. It's kind of mind-blowing when you stop and think about it, being able to see and chat with someone on the other side of the world, just like that. But looking at your sources, it does make you wonder, has all this come at the expense of more personal, face-to-face interactions? Are we choosing a screen over actually getting together when that might be more meaningful?
It's a really interesting question, and it comes up a few times in the stuff you sent over. The convenience of it all, the ability to connect with anyone, anywhere,
Right.
those are massive benefits, especially during something like, well, the pandemic. Your sources really highlight how vital these tools became for people when they couldn't physically be with each other.
Yeah.
But there's definitely this idea that maybe we're leaning on digital communication too much. Like, could it be making us less likely to have those deeper in-person connections? It's something to consider, for sure.
It definitely is. And your sources seem to agree that finding that balance is important. It's about seeing technology as a tool, a powerful one, and using it in a way that helps us build better connections, not replace them altogether. Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about social media. Your sources really dive deep into this world, and it seems pretty clear that there are some bright spots, but also some serious concerns. Platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, it's rare to find someone who's not on at least one of them. What were some of the positive aspects that stood out to you as you were looking through all this?
One of the things your sources really emphasize is that social media can be incredibly powerful for building and maintaining connections. It lets us stay in touch with friends and family, even when we're miles apart. And it can be a really valuable platform for sharing ideas, even learning new things. I mean, the examples you included, things like educational videos and travel vlogs, really highlight that aspect. Information and experiences are being shared and accessed in a way that just wasn't possible before.
I totally agree. I've discovered some great educational channels and stuff myself, but there's that flip side, right? That feeling of getting sucked into the scroll. Have you ever caught yourself just endlessly scrolling, kind of on autopilot, and realizing you've lost a big chunk of time?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, the potential for that kind of habitual, mindless scrolling is one of the biggest worries that your sources bring up. It's so easy to fall into that trap, to just passively consume content without even realizing how much time is passing. It really highlights the importance of being more mindful about how we use these platforms and how much time we spend on them.
It does, and it's not just the time, right? The materials you sent also go into some of the more serious downsides, like how fake news spreads so easily on social media and the issue of cyberbullying. These are some really serious problems that come with having platforms that connect so many people.
They are, for sure. The spread of false information, what's often labeled as fake news, that's a huge challenge these days. And your sources stress how crucial it is for people to develop those media literacy skills, to really be able to think critically about what they see online, to fact-check things before they believe them or share them with others. And the whole issue of cyberbullying, well, it's another example of how these online spaces can be misused in a way that can have devastating consequences for people.
Yeah, it's important to remember that there are real people behind those profiles and comments. So let's move on to how technology has impacted the way we work. It feels like the pandemic really sped up a lot of changes that were already happening, especially with remote work becoming so widespread.
Yeah, you can really see that in the material you sent over. The way remote work went from being kind of niche to the norm practically overnight. It's pretty remarkable.
Hmm.
And your sources dig into the upsides, and the big one is definitely flexibility. Being able to work from anywhere is a game changer for a lot of people. It can give you more control over your schedule, a better work-life balance. It's a big draw for many.
For sure. No commute, more flexibility. That sounds pretty ideal. But the sources you send don't shy away from the downsides either. It sounds like making that shift to working from home isn't always easy, is it?
Right? It's not all sunshine and roses. There are definitely challenges. Staying focused when you're at home with all the distractions, that's tough for a lot of people. And then there's a whole issue of teamwork. It can be harder to communicate and collaborate effectively when you're not meeting face to face. Your sources actually mention a few specific tools that have become essential for companies that have embraced remote work. Slack for team communication, Trello for project management, and of course, Zoom for those virtual meetings. They've practically become part of our daily vocabulary.
They have, haven't they? I mean, I can't imagine working without those tools now, but it sounds like even with all the tech, one of the big ongoing struggles for people working remotely is figuring out that work-life balance.
Yeah, that's something your sources emphasize a lot. It can be really hard to draw that line when your home is also your office.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be very intentional about creating boundaries, setting aside time for yourself and your family, making sure work doesn't spill over into every part of your life.
Absolutely. Okay, let's dive into something that's always a hot topic and seems to be getting more attention than ever: online privacy and security. Every time you turn around, there's a new story about a data breach or some kind of scam. It's definitely a cause for concern.
It is. I mean, think about how much information we put out there online. It's a lot. Your sources do a good job of highlighting how important it is for all of us to be aware of that and to take steps to protect our personal data. They talk a lot about how apps and websites track our activity online, often without us really knowing it, and that's something that a lot of people find unnerving.
It can be. But the good news is that your sources also include some really practical advice for our listeners on how to be more secure online.
Yes, and this is where those actionable tips are so valuable. They talk about starting with the basics, like creating strong, unique passwords for all your online accounts. It's so important not to use the same password for everything. And then there's two-factor authentication, which adds that extra layer of security. And of course, they emphasize being cautious about what personal information you share online. You always want to think twice before posting sensitive details.
Right. And speaking of thinking twice, what about those phishing emails and all the different scam messages going around? It seems like those are getting more and more sophisticated.
You're not wrong. The tactics that these cyber criminals are using are definitely getting trickier. It's getting harder to tell the real from the fake. And that's why your sources stress the importance of slowing down and thinking before you click on any links from senders you don't recognize. Just a moment of hesitation can save you a lot of trouble down the line. I think the big takeaway here is that online safety is not just a good idea, it's a necessity for everyone. It's like learning the rules of the road before you drive a car.
Well said. Okay, for our final stop, let's take a look at what your sources say about the future of technology. It sounds like AI, artificial intelligence, is going to play an even bigger role in our lives going forward.
It does. And it's fascinating to think about how it's already becoming woven into our daily routines. Your sources mention the obvious examples, like those smart assistants like Siri and Alexa, which are pretty commonplace now.
And it's not just those voice-activated gadgets, is it? According to what you sent, AI is popping up all over the place.
Exactly. And your sources really paint this picture of how AI is expanding into all these different sectors. We're talking self-driving cars, those chatbots that are becoming increasingly common in customer service, even healthcare, where AI is being used to improve diagnoses and treatments. But there's this big question that always comes up with AI, and your sources definitely acknowledge it. What's going to happen to jobs? Will robots and algorithms take over all the work that humans are doing now? It's a valid concern.
It is. It's something a lot of people are worried about.
And your sources do a good job of presenting a balanced view. While they acknowledge the very real concerns about job losses, they also point out that, historically, whenever there's been a big technological leap, new industries and new types of jobs have emerged. I think the lesson here is that we're going to have to be adaptable, willing to learn new skills, and constantly evolve as the workforce changes.
Oh.
And on a slightly different note, it's pretty cool that your sources even touch on all the exciting developments in space technology. They even bring up the possibility of human missions to Mars, which is pretty mind-blowing. It just shows how much potential there is for technological advancement in so many areas.
It really does. So wrapping it all up, that was a really insightful deep dive into the world of technology. We've covered a ton of ground, from how the way we communicate has been revolutionized to the pros and cons of social media, all the changes happening in the work world, the importance of staying safe and protecting our privacy online, and even what the future might hold for tech, all based on the fantastic material you shared with us.
Definitely. And I think the overarching message that comes through in everything you sent is that technology has brought amazing advancements, but also some real challenges. The key takeaway seems to be that we need to learn to use these powerful tools responsibly and thoughtfully.
Couldn't agree more. So, to leave you with something to ponder, we've been talking about how fast technology is evolving and how it's affecting all these different aspects of our lives. With all that in mind, what's the one thing about the future of technology that really makes you stop and think? What question or concern do you have as we move forward in this ever-changing digital world? That's something to consider as we all continue to navigate this fascinating and sometimes overwhelming technological landscape.
Ever just grab your phone real quick just to check one little notification, and then whoops, there goes like half an hour?
Yeah, totally. I think we've all been there. It's like a classic trap.
It is, and it's kind of what we're diving into today, right? This whole like rabbit hole of how social media and tech kind of just like seep into our lives.
Yeah, it's not just about posting selfies or, whatever. It's like
Yeah,
how it changes how we think, how we learn, even how we feel about things.
exactly. And the stuff we've been reading for this is like, whoa. It's kind of scary how much it's all intertwined with just like basic everyday stuff.
Big time.
Yeah.
So ready to unpack all of this, get down to the nitty gritty.
That's the plan. Let's like distill it down so it's clear, but not like overwhelm everyone.
Totally got to avoid information overload for sure.
Okay, so first up, let's get psychological.
Yeah.
Like, what is it about these platforms that just sucks us in?
Well, the thing is, it's not by accident, right? Like they are designed to grab our attention and not let go.
Oh, yeah. Like, think about that infinite scroll thing. You just keep scrolling and scrolling, or like that little hit of happy you get when someone likes your post.
Right. It's all very calculated.
Yeah.
These platforms tap right into how our brains work, especially the reward system.
Oh, tell me more about that.
So our sources talk about this thing called a variable reward schedule. It's basically like you don't know when that next notification or like is coming, so you keep checking.
Or like a slot machine.
Exactly. It's way more effective at keeping us hooked than if the rewards were predictable.
Wow, that's wild. Okay, but here's the thing, right? All those little bursts of good feelings can actually make us dependent on social media for validation. Like instead of, doing things in real life that make us feel good, we're chasing likes and comments.
And that's when it can get problematic.
Right.
Our sources point to some potential downsides here, like increased anxiety or low self-esteem.
But you're constantly comparing yourself to other people's highlight reels, right?
Exactly. And feeling pressure to present this perfect, curated online persona. It's exhausting.
It really is. And it's kind of ironic, right? Because social media is supposed to be about connecting with people. But a lot of research suggests it can actually make us feel more lonely.
That's a huge point. Those online connections, while fun sometimes, they don't always translate into the kind of deep, meaningful relationships we need to combat loneliness in the real world.
So true. Makes you think about how much effort we're putting into those offline connections, huh?
Absolutely. It's something to be really intentional about.
For sure. So any tips from our sources on how to, use social media in a healthier way?
Definitely. One that jumped out was setting time limits, like using those built-in features on your phone.
Oh, yeah, those are great. I need to use those more. I always say I will, but then I don't.
Same here. It's about being more mindful of how much time we're actually spending scrolling.
True, true. Another thing I saw was having social media detox days, like taking a whole day off.
Love that gives you a chance to actually focus on what's happening offline. Be more present in your real life.
Right, reset the balance.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Now, social media isn't just for fun and games. It's becoming a huge force in education.
You got it. It's like a learning tool now. We're talking YouTube, Instagram, even TikTok.
Seriously, I've seen some amazing educational stuff on TikTok. It's wild.
It's pretty incredible. You can find tutorials for almost anything these days, like how to fix a leaky faucet or learn a new language.
Right, or take online courses, join these super in-depth discussion forums.
And the access it provides is mind-blowing. Like someone in a tiny village somewhere can learn from a world-renowned expert in astrophysics, all thanks to these platforms.
That's powerful. But there's also a flip side, right? Like, how do you know what to trust? With so much information out there, it's hard to separate the good stuff from the misinformation.
That's the big challenge. You got to be a discerning consumer of information. Verify sources, check credentials. It's crucial.
So important.
Yeah.
especially for students who are using these platforms to learn new things.
Absolutely. You can't just believe everything you see online. It's so true. Okay, let's talk news now. Like, how we get our news has totally changed because of social media.
It's a whole different ballgame. Remember when we just relied on newspapers and the evening news?
I know, right? Seems like ancient history.
Now it's instant. Breaking news spreads like wildfire across social media.
Which is great in some ways, right? Like, you know what's happening right away.
Absolutely. But the problem is misinformation spreads just as quickly.
Sometimes before anyone can even fact check it.
Exactly. And then there's the algorithm factor.
Algorithms.
Our sources talk about these things called filter bubbles. It's where the algorithm shows you content similar to what you've engaged with before.
So you're only seeing stuff that reinforces your existing views.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that can really create echo chambers where misinformation can fester.
It's like we're all living in our own little information bubbles.
Kind of scary when you think about it.
Definitely. So what's the solution then?
We got to actively seek out a variety of viewpoints.
Yeah.
And fact check everything before we believe it or share it. Super important. Okay, let's move on to something a little lighter, but still kind of creepy. Targeted advertising.
Oh, yeah, we've all experienced that, right? You're talking about something with a friend, and then bam, you see an ad for it on your feed.
It's like they're listening to us.
Well, in a way they are. These platforms are using tons of data to target us with ads.
Our sources say they look at our search history, online conversations, even our interests.
It's all about showing us the most relevant ads possible.
And it can be convenient sometimes, right? Like seeing ads for things you actually might want.
For sure. But it also raises some big privacy concerns.
Like how much data are they collecting about us and what are they doing with it?
It's a trade-off. Convenience versus privacy.
So what can we do to protect ourselves?
Well, for one thing, review your privacy settings on all your social media accounts.
Good point. I should probably do that.
And just be mindful of what you share online. The less you share, the less data they have on you.
Makes sense. Okay, last but not least, let's look to the future. What's next for social media and tech? Where are we headed?
Well, from what I'm reading, we're moving towards even more immersive experiences. Like, think AI, virtual reality, augmented reality.
Whoa, that's pretty mind-blowing.
It is. Our sources even talk about, like, attending a VR concert with friends who live across the world.
That would be so cool.
Yeah.
But it also kind of freaks me out a little.
I get it. It's exciting, but it also raises a lot of ethical questions. Like, what about data privacy and misinformation in these new immersive worlds?
And what about our mental health? Spending so much time in these virtual spaces could have unintended consequences.
Totally. We need to be having these conversations now as these technologies are being developed.
So it's not just about the cool factor. We have to think about the responsibility that comes with it.
Big time.
So to wrap up, what have we learned today about this crazy world of social media and technology?
Well, we talked about the psychology behind it, the way it hooks us in and can sometimes make us dependent on it for validation.
Right, and we talked about how it's changing education. Making information more accessible, but also making it harder to sift through the noise and find what's trustworthy.
We explored how social media has transformed the news landscape, making it faster but also more vulnerable to misinformation.
And we delved into the world of targeted advertising and how it uses our data to personalize our online experiences.
And finally, we looked ahead to the future of social media and tech, the exciting possibilities, but also the potential pitfalls.
It's a lot to think about.
It is, but understanding these things is crucial for navigating our digital world in a healthy and informed way.
Couldn't agree more. So as you continue to scroll and like and share, think about the bigger picture, the impact these platforms are having on you and on society as a whole.
And remember, you have the power to shape your relationship with technology. Use it intentionally and don't let it use you.
Words to live by. So until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay connected in the real world.
And don't forget to log off every once in a while. You'll thank yourself for it.
For sure.
All right, welcome in, everyone. Ready for another deep dive.
Definitely. Always excited to see where these conversations take us.
This one, I think, is going to be particularly interesting. We got a listener sent in this discussion between, it was Sarah and John, right?
That's right, yeah.
On their podcast. And they were talking about how social media and all this technology, like, just completely woven into, like, every part of our
It's
lives.
inescapable at this point, really.
It is, yeah, it really is. And they brought up some like really interesting points about how it's changing, like the way we work, how we learn, even how we think, you know?
That's reshaping us in ways we're only beginning to understand.
Exactly. And then also like how do we stay connected in this digital age, but like also make sure we're taking care of ourselves, you know, like mentally and everything.
Right. Finding that balance can be tricky.
Very tricky. So I guess that's our mission today, right? To kind of dig into all of this and see what insights we can extract from Sarah and John's conversation.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, so where do we even begin with all of this? I mean, there's just so much to unpack.
Well, I think what struck me right away was how Sarah and John, they jumped into some of the really tangible changes we're seeing, especially in the world of work, like
Mhm.
remote work that came up right away.
Yeah.
And it's just such a perfect example of like how technology is transforming things.
Yeah.
John was talking about the flexibility it offers. And I mean, it's undeniable, right? It's reshaped not just where work happens, but who can participate. You know, you could be in a completely different country and still be part of a team.
Absolutely. It's been huge for so many people being able to work from anywhere. But then, Sarah brought up like the other side of that coin, the potential for isolation.
Right.
That was a really critical point. And how work can just kind of bleed into your personal life when like your office is essentially wherever you open your laptop.
Always on, always connected.
Yeah. I think a lot of people can relate to that feeling of like being constantly accessible. It's freeing in some ways, but it's definitely a challenge to manage.
Definitely. The double-edged sword, for
Yeah.
sure. But if we zoom out a bit, this shift in where we work, it's really just one part of a much bigger change in the nature of work itself.
Mhm.
Like John started talking about artificial intelligence and
Mm.
automation,
Yeah.
all of that.
Oh, yeah.
Chatbots handling customer service, self-driving vehicles becoming like more and more of a reality.
It's crazy to think about.
And even like AI generating content, that's a significant wave of change hitting tons of industries.
Hmm.
And it really makes you wonder, what skills are going to be most valuable as all this technology becomes more and more integrated into like everything we do.
It really does make you think. And then that naturally leads us to like, well, how are we learning and acquiring those skills, right? Sarah and John, they touched on this whole idea of AI playing a bigger role in learning too, which, I mean, it's fascinating.
It is.
You've got language learning apps that adapt to your pace, virtual tutors that can give you personalized guidance, and AI-powered writing assistants.
Pretty mind-blowing.
It's amazing how accessible these resources are now. Like anyone with an internet connection can tap into all of this.
Exactly. And what's really interesting, like specifically about the AI part, is the potential for truly personalized learning. Like John was saying, these systems, they can adapt to your individual level and like track your progress. Imagine a learning experience that's constantly adjusting to your strengths and weaknesses, like where you need more support. And
That's incredible.
it could be incredibly effective, right?
It sounds like almost sci-fi, but it's happening now. It's really happening.
It is. And often, like how it works is it analyzes your responses.
Oh, wow.
And it adjusts the difficulty or even the way information is presented to you to better suit how you learn.
That's so cool. But then, John, he brings up a really important point, one that kind of makes you stop and think about all the implications.
Yeah.
He asks, like, with all this reliance on technology, to help us learn to do tasks, are we potentially, like, weakening our own critical thinking skills? If AI is handling more and more of the thinking for us, are we losing some of our own capacity to think independently and solve problems?
It's a valid concern. It's like we're outsourcing our brains in a way.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
Sarah she had a really balanced perspective here.
Yeah.
She was talking about how technology, it has the potential to really enhance learning if we use it thoughtfully.
Right.
But
Yeah.
like there are risks if it becomes a replacement for independent thought and effort. It's all about how we engage with these tools. Are we using them to amplify our own abilities? Or are we letting them kind of atrophy through over-reliance?
Yeah, it's about finding that balance, isn't it?
It is.
And that idea of balance, it kind of keeps coming up, doesn't it? Because, later they start talking about social connection in the digital age.
Right.
And John highlights this really interesting paradox. Like, we're more digitally connected than ever through social media and all these platforms. But, like, that doesn't necessarily equal deeper, more meaningful connections in our actual lives.
Yeah, the quantity versus quality thing.
Exactly.
And what's really at the heart of this is that, like, very human need for genuine interaction for belonging. Like Sarah was talking about feeling more isolated even though she's constantly connected online. And that really resonated with me.
Mm.
It's such a crucial distinction, between just the sheer number of connections you might have online versus the quality and the depth of those relationships.
It's true. Just because you have like thousands of followers or whatever doesn't mean you have those deep, supportive relationships that we all need.
Exactly.
And then John, he talks about this thing I think we've all experienced, is people being together, like physically in the same room, but they're mentally somewhere else.
Totally.
Totally engrossed in their phones.
That's like a modern day plague.
It's funny, I was just thinking, like, how many times I've been, like, out to dinner with someone or even just, like, hanging out with family, and I'm, like, completely absorbed in my phone. It's almost like an epidemic, isn't it?
It is. It is. And it really highlights, like, the need to be more intentional with how we use technology.
Right.
Sarah's suggestion to be more mindful and to actually prioritize real face-to-face conversations, I think that gets to the core of the issue. We need to make a conscious choice to engage with the people who are right there in front of us instead of being constantly pulled into that, like, endless stream of information and interactions on our screens.
Yeah, that's so important. And that brings us to the, like, more practical side of things. Like, how do we actually cultivate healthier technology habits in our everyday lives? Because it's easy to talk about being intentional, but, like, what does that look like practically?
Right.
Sarah had some good starting points, like setting boundaries, simple things like, having no phone times during meals or before bed.
Yeah, those are great.
It sounds simple, but I bet it makes a big difference.
What does? Creating those spaces where you're fully present without the distractions,
Yeah.
it's crucial.
Absolutely. And what I like about those strategies is they're all about creating space, dedicated space away from our devices.
Exactly.
Like Sarah talked about how she sets daily limits on certain apps, so she's not like mindlessly scrolling all day.
Mhm.
It's about taking control of your screen time instead of letting like notifications and that urge to constantly check your phone control you.
Being proactive, not reactive.
Yeah, exactly. And then John, he talked about making sure you balance screen time with offline activities, things like reading actual books, getting exercise, or just like being outside in nature. Like, it sounds so basic, but it's a good reminder that a fulfilling life involves more than just the digital world, right?
Absolutely. Those are fundamental principles for well-being, especially in our tech-saturated world.
Yeah. And if we bring it back to the bigger picture, it's about like having a healthy, sustainable relationship with technology in the long run. Like John mentioned, being mindful of the content you consume. Instead of just endlessly scrolling, maybe you're actively engaging with educational material or using social media to connect with specific communities that you're interested in, like being more deliberate.
Mm-hmm. Choosing quality over quantity.
Exactly. And then Sarah, she even talked about doing digital detoxes, like actually stepping away from all technology for a certain amount of time just to like reset and recharge.
It's like hitting the refresh button for your mind.
Exactly.
And it's so necessary in this like always-on digital environment.
Yeah.
I think ultimately what both Sarah and John were getting at is that finding that balance between our online and offline lives. That's the key. It's not about rejecting technology altogether. Right. It's about integrating it into our lives in a way that enhances our well-being, that strengthens our minds and helps us build meaningful connections.
So it sounds like as we kind of wrap up this deep dive into Sarah and John's conversation, we've learned that technology is definitely transforming the way we work and learn. It's creating amazing opportunities, but it also comes with some potential downsides that we have to be aware of.
Definitely.
And when it comes to our digital connections, the big takeaway seems to be that we need to be mindful. We need to be intentional, to make sure our digital lives are actually enriching our real world interactions and not like taking away from them.
Absolutely. It's about being in the driver's seat.
Exactly. So this leads to like a final thought for everyone listening. In a world that's becoming more and more shaped by technology, how can you make sure you're cultivating both your digital literacy, like your ability to understand and use all this technology effectively, and also meaningful engagement in the offline world? How do you strike that balance so you can not just survive, but really thrive in this constantly changing environment?
It's a question worth pondering, for sure.
It is.
It is.
All right, well, that's all right. So today we're diving into something that's pretty much unavoidable these days.
Yeah.
The impact of technology and social media.
Mm.
It seems like everywhere you look, they're reshaping how we live, work, and even, relax.
Right. It's a pretty big deal.
It is, and we've got a ton of material to go through today.
Yeah, a lot to unpack.
But our listeners are all about efficiency, right?
Yeah.
So our goal is to boil it all down, get to the heart of the matter, and figure out what it all means for us.
Exactly. The opportunities and the challenges, both sides of the coin.
Exactly. So let's start with something everyone can relate to, education.
Okay, yeah.
It's pretty obvious that technology has revolutionized how we learn.
I mean, it's completely different from even a decade ago.
Right. Think about online courses like Coursera or Udemy.
Yeah.
You can literally take classes from world-renowned universities without leaving your house.
It's wild, the access we have now.
And that increased accessibility is a huge point, right? It means
Yeah.
more people from all walks of life can gain new skills and knowledge.
It's democratizing education in a way we've never seen before.
For sure. But of course, with all this freedom comes a new set of challenges.
Yeah, like how do you stay focused when you're learning online? There's no classroom structure, no professor looking over your shoulder.
It takes a lot of self-discipline, that's for sure.
It does. And then there's the whole social media angle,
Oh, yeah.
which is interesting because platforms like TikTok and Instagram.
Which, we usually think of as just entertainment,
Right.
are actually being used by educators to teach.
Yeah, they're creating these bite-sized lessons that are really engaging, especially for younger generations.
It's a smart strategy meeting students where they are.
It is. But it makes you wonder, can you really get in-depth knowledge from a 30-second video?
Right. There's a risk of oversimplifying things.
Yeah, there's a balance to be found there.
Definitely. Now, let's talk about another area that's been massively impacted, the workplace. I mean, remote work has gone from a perk to the norm for many.
It's crazy how quickly that shift happened.
And it's all thanks to tools like Zoom and Microsoft Teams, which allow for seamless collaboration, no matter where you are.
It's been a game changer for companies too, right?
Absolutely. They can hire talent from anywhere in the world now.
And save money on office space, which is a big deal.
Huge. But this always-on connectivity has its downsides too, right?
Oh, definitely. The blurring of work and personal life is a big concern.
Yeah, it's hard to switch off when your office is your living room.
Right. You're constantly reachable, and that could be exhausting.
And then there's the rise of AI, which is adding another layer of complexity to the whole thing.
AI, yeah, that's a whole other conversation.
It is, but it's already transforming so many industries.
From healthcare to finance, it's everywhere.
We're talking about chatbots handling customer service, automation streamlining processes, machine learning driving insights.
It's increasing efficiency and changing the nature of work itself.
Which is exciting, but also kind of scary.
Right, because if machines can do more and more tasks, what does that mean for human jobs?
That's the big question, isn't it? It's a potential threat, but it also creates opportunities for people to upskill and adapt.
It's forcing us to think about the future of work and how we prepare for it.
Absolutely. Okay, let's switch gears a bit and talk about entertainment.
Entertainment, okay.
Because technology has completely revolutionized how we consume movies, music, everything.
Yeah, it's streaming all the way now.
Right. Think about Netflix, Spotify, Disney Plus.
It's so convenient you have a whole library of content at your fingertips.
And it's not just about convenience. It's also changed the types of content we see.
True. There's more niche programming, catering to specific interests.
And it's empowered independent creators in a huge way.
Absolutely.
Platforms like YouTube and TikTok have given people a voice, a platform to share their work without needing a big studio or record label.
It's really democratized content creation. Anyone with a smartphone and an idea can potentially reach a global audience.
It's incredible.
Okay.
But of course, there's a flip side to all this content.
Yeah, information overload is a real thing.
It is. We're bombarded with so much information constantly. It's hard to filter out the noise and find what's truly valuable.
And it's easy to fall into the trap of digital addiction, spending hours scrolling through feeds and losing track of time.
It's a constant battle for our attention.
It is. It's all about finding a healthy balance.
So looking ahead, what technological advancements do you see on the horizon that will continue to shape our world?
Well, AI and automation are only going to become more sophisticated. That's a given.
Right.
But I'm really fascinated by the potential of virtual reality.
Oh, VR. Yeah.
It's already come a long way. And the idea of the metaverse, this persistent virtual world, is really intriguing.
Yeah, imagine attending meetings or hanging out with friends in a virtual space.
It could change how we interact and connect in fundamental ways.
It's exciting, but it also raises concerns about privacy and security.
Oh, absolutely. Those are huge issues.
As we become more aligned on technology, how do we protect our personal information and ensure the safety of our digital interactions?
It's a challenge we need to be thinking about now.
So it all comes down to this. How do we harness the power of technology for good while mitigating the risk?
Exactly. It's a powerful tool, but it's up to us to use it wisely.
It's about finding that balance, using technology to enhance our lives without letting it consume us.
And staying informed, understanding the implications of these advancements so we can make conscious choices.
Absolutely. So to wrap this up, we've covered a lot of ground today. From the changing landscape of education to the evolving workplace, the revolution in entertainment, and the exciting but uncertain future of technology.
It's a lot to take in, but it's important to be aware of these trends and how they're shaping the world around us.
And for our listeners, I think the key takeaway is this. Technology is a force that's here to stay.
It is.
And it's up to each of us to figure out how to navigate it in a way that benefits us and the world as a whole.
Yeah, to be active participants in this digital evolution, not just passive consumers.
Exactly. So as you go about your day, think about this. How is technology impacting your life? And what steps can you take to make sure it's a positive force, not a source of stress or distraction?
It's a question worth pondering.
It is. And with that, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll catch you next time.
All right, welcome back to the Deep Dive. You know, we love diving into these topics that you guys are really interested in.
Yeah.
And you've been sending in a lot of stuff about how technology is really like changing the way we do everything,
Right.
like work and learn.
Yeah.
And even just interact with the world. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like from our previous deep dives,
Yeah.
into social media and the internet.
Yeah. And so today we're going to kind of try to put it all together.
Yeah.
Look at all this stuff that you've sent in and like,
Pull out the insights.
yeah. And like try to figure out what's really important for like, know about how all this is working,
Yeah. It's all connected.
Yeah.
All these different things are starting to weave together
So
through technology.
where should we start?
Well,
Let's talk about AI.
okay.
It's kind of a hot topic,
It is. Yeah.
AI and automation
Mhm.
and how that's like impacting jobs. It's funny when you think about those old movies like
Right.
robots taking over the world, but AI is creeping into our lives
Yeah.
in a way
It is.
that's much more subtle,
Yes.
also
Powerful.
super powerful.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are worried, like, am I going to lose my job to a robot?
Well, and that's a valid concern, right?
Yeah.
We're definitely seeing AI taking over tasks that used to be done by humans.
For sure.
And some jobs, are going to be displaced as AI gets better,
Yeah.
but there's also
A flip side to that,
there is
right? It's not just about jobs disappearing, it's about jobs
changing,
yeah.
evolving.
So like, yeah, some jobs are going away, but there are all these new jobs
Exactly.
being created that we never even thought of before.
That's right.
Like, what was that one? Prompt engineer.
Prompt engineer. Yeah, that's someone who figures out
Right.
how to talk to AI.
Right. Like, because we don't really know
Exactly.
the best way to talk to these AI.
Exactly. And we need people
Yeah.
who can do that.
Yeah.
And then another one, AI ethicist.
Right.
Making sure that AI is developed responsibly.
Right. So we need people who can like guide the development of this technology
Absolutely.
in a good way.
Right. Ethical way.
Yeah. So it's really about being adaptable.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely. If there's one takeaway for you,
Yeah.
it's that
Yeah.
you need to be ready to learn new skills.
Yeah. Like constant learning is not just like
A nice thing to
a
have.
bonus.
Yeah.
It's like
Essential.
a requirement.
Yeah. Yeah. Like if you want to stay ahead of
Like
the curve.
You've got to keep learning.
Exactly.
But the cool thing is that it's so much easier now than it used to be.
Absolutely.
Like you can learn anything online. Like anything.
anything.
Literally. You could literally start tonight.
Tonight. Yeah.
Like, have you heard of Coursera and Udemy?
I have.
They've got like courses on everything.
Everything.
And even YouTube,
Oh, yeah.
Like so many tutorials.
So many.
So if you want to learn something,
It's out there.
you can learn it. And that actually brings us to like
Education.
education, right?
Yeah.
Like how we learn is changing so much
Yeah.
because of technology.
It is.
I mean, remember when you had to like go to a classroom,
right.
sit in a desk,
Yeah.
be there at a specific time?
You had to.
You were trapped, basically.
Exactly.
And now
The internet.
the internet has like
Blown it wide open.
blown it wide open.
Yeah.
You can learn
Anything.
anything, anywhere,
Anytime.
anytime.
Yeah.
And this is huge
Huge.
because it means that like anyone with an internet connection can learn from the best teachers in the world
Right. You could be sitting at home taking
Yeah.
a class
Yeah.
from a top university
across the world.
on the other side of the world. Yeah.
It's incredible.
It is.
It's mind-blowing. And it's not just about like abstract knowledge,
Right.
You can learn practical stuff,
Oh, absolutely.
like how to code.
Yeah, like Python. Right.
Python, yeah.
Yeah.
Or a new language,
Spanish.
Spanish or
Yeah.
French, whatever you want, right?
Wherever you are.
You could even get certifications, like in business,
Project management.
project management, yeah.
Yeah,
And this is great for people who are already working, too.
absolutely.
Like
Professional.
professionals can stay up to date
Yeah.
or even switch careers completely.
Totally.
And companies are realizing this.
Yeah.
They're investing in
Online training.
online training.
Yeah, for their employees.
Because they realize that,
Learning.
learning never stops.
Learning, it's lifelong,
Yeah.
continuous.
Speaking of which, let's talk about how this digital world
Okay.
is changing the way businesses market themselves.
Yeah, it's completely different.
It's a whole new ballgame.
Yeah, like remember billboards
Yeah.
and TV commercials.
Yeah. Those are the days.
Those were the days. But now,
We've got social media,
social media,
which is like
a direct line
a direct line
to customers.
to your customers.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's crazy. You can just
Talk to them.
talk to them, engage with them,
Yeah.
understand them better than ever before.
Exactly. Platforms like Instagram.
Yeah.
Facebook.
Facebook,
TikTok.
TikTok, they're all about connection.
And it's not just about posting stuff,
Right.
There are so many different ways to market on social media.
Like influencer marketing,
Influencer marketing, right?
where you get people with a following
Yeah.
to promote your stuff.
Yeah, and it's like real people.
Real people.
Real people talking about your product, which is like
Cowards.
super powerful.
Yeah.
And then there are like
Paid ads
paid ads.
that you can target to specific people.
Right, like you can get really specific with who you want to reach,
You can.
which is incredible.
Incredible.
And then there's like,
Organic content.
organic content where you're just like putting out
Good content
good content.
that people want to see, that people actually want to see.
Exactly.
And the great thing about all of this is that it's not just for big companies anymore.
Right.
Like small businesses,
Startups
they can use social media
to compete.
compete with the big guys.
Absolutely.
And that's really exciting
It is.
because it levels the playing field.
Yeah, it democratizes.
It democratizes business, which is awesome.
It does.
But there's a dark side to all of this, right?
There is.
Like all this digital stuff,
Mm-hmm.
it raises concerns about privacy.
Definitely. Like the more we live online,
Yeah,
the more data companies collect about us.
right. And it's like, what are they doing with all that data?
Exactly. And that's a big question that
Yeah.
people are starting to ask.
And it's not just about data collection. It's also about security. Yeah.
Hacking,
Hacking, identity theft,
all sorts of bad stuff.
all sorts of bad stuff that can happen.
Yeah.
So what can we do about it?
Well, it's a two-way street.
Yep.
Companies need to be more transparent
Yeah.
about how they use our data,
Okay.
and they need to do a better job of protecting it.
Right.
But we also need to take responsibility for our own security,
What do you mean?
like using strong passwords
Okay.
and enabling two-factor authentication.
Two-factor authentication, that's the thing where,
Like a second key.
like a code they send to your phone.
Exactly.
Okay. So it's harder for people to
Hack into your account.
hack into your accounts.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
And it's really important
Yeah.
because, once your data's out there,
Yeah.
it's out there.
You can't get it back.
You can't.
So yeah, we got to be careful.
We do.
And it's not just about external threats either, right?
Right.
Like we have to worry about
Ourselves, yeah.
digital addiction.
Digital addiction.
Yeah, it's easy to spend hours
On social media.
on social media
Without even realizing it.
without even realizing it.
And that's not healthy. It's not.
So we need to be mindful
Of our screen time.
of our screen time.
And take breaks.
Take breaks, yeah.
Go outside.
Go outside,
Watch some grass.
touch some grass.
Exactly.
It's important.
It is.
So all of this stuff is happening now.
Yeah.
But what about the future?
Well, the future is
Exciting?
exciting. It's a little scary.
A little scary.
But mostly exciting.
Mostly exciting.
Yeah.
We're seeing so much innovation
Yeah.
in virtual reality.
VR, yeah.
Metaverse.
Metaverse, blockchain.
Blockchain.
AI, of course.
AI, of course.
It's mind-blowing.
It's mind-blowing. I mean, we could have AI assistants
Yeah.
that run our lives.
We manage our schedules.
Yeah, manage our schedules, do our shopping,
Book our appointment.
book our appointments, everything.
It's everything.
We could have self-driving cars
Everywhere.
everywhere.
Yeah.
And we might even see
Space travel.
space
Will
travel
become more accessible.
more accessible
To regular people.
to regular people. Yeah.
It's incredible.
It's incredible, but it's also
A little daunting.
A little daunting, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we need to make sure that we're using all of this technology
And responsibly.
responsibly, yeah.
For good.
For good, not for evil.
Right.
It's about finding that balance.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Where technology enhances our lives,
Uh-huh.
but doesn't take over.
Doesn't control us.
Right.
Yeah.
We need to stay in control
Absolutely.
and use technology to make our lives better.
Better, not worse.
Not worse, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a challenge, but it's a challenge that we have to face.
We do.
Because technology is not going away.
It's not going anywhere.
It's only going to get more powerful,
More powerful.
more pervasive,
More pervasive.
more everything.
More everything.
So, wow, that was a lot.
He was.
A lot to think about.
A lot to digest.
But hopefully this
Yeah.
deep dive has been helpful for you.
Hopefully it's given you some food for thought.
Yeah. And helped you to kind of wrap your head around
Uh-huh.
all of these changes that are happening.
The big picture.
The big picture. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
What do you think?
What resonated with you the most?
Yeah. What are you excited about?
What are you worried about?
What are you concerned about?
Yeah.
Like, what keeps you up at night?
Yeah.
Thinking about all this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, so here's a question for you to ponder.
Okay.
Thinking about everything we talked about today,
Yeah.
the rise of AI,
Mm.
online learning,
Mm-hmm.
the power of social media,
Yeah.
all of it.
All of it.
What's one unexpected way
Okay.
that you think technology is going to change your life in the next 10 years?
Ooh, that's a good one.
It is
That's a good one.
something to think about.
Something to think about.
Yeah.
Until next time.
Until next time. All right. So, hey, everyone, welcome back. This time we are really going to dig deep into some stuff that I think is super relevant to, well, pretty much everyone these days, you know. Social media and all the tech that just keeps changing how our world works. I mean, we've all seen the headlines about AI and the metaverse and how much online learning has exploded. But what we're going to do today is really look at all of that as like one big interconnected thing. Because honestly, it is, right? Like, these changes aren't happening in isolation. They all kind of feed into each other and ultimately impact you in ways you might not even realize yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And the pace of change is just incredible. Like, when you try to grasp how all these technologies, AI, the metaverse, online education are influencing each other, well, you start to see some pretty profound shifts, not just online, but in our everyday lives. And I think that opens up some really big questions, but also some really big opportunities.
Okay, so let's get into it. And I guess the most logical place to start is artificial intelligence, right? AI and how it's already woven into our experience on social media. And look, I know for some folks, AI still sounds like this futuristic sci-fi concept, but I think once you start to really pay attention, you realize it's already here shaping what you see every time you open up your favorite app.
Exactly. Think about it. What pops up first when you're scrolling through YouTube or Instagram or TikTok, chances are it's something those platforms' algorithms have handpicked just for you based on what they've learned about you.
It's true, like, it's almost creepy how well those recommendation engines work sometimes, but how do they even do it?
Well, it's all about data. Your every click, every comment, even how long you watch a video, it all gets fed into these AI systems. And they use that information to build a profile of you, what you engage with and what you might want to see next. It's like a constantly evolving personalized magazine just for you.
So it's not just like random suggestions, it's actually getting smarter the more you use it.
Exactly. And it goes even deeper than that. AI is now being used to tackle some of the really thorny problems that have plagued social media for years, like misinformation and harmful content.
Oh, right. I've seen articles about that. But how can AI even tell what's real and what's fake?
Well, it's complicated. These systems analyze text images, even videos, looking for patterns and inconsistencies.
Yeah.
They can cross-reference information with trusted sources, flag suspicious accounts, and try to identify things like manipulated images or deepfakes.
Wow, that's a lot more than just suggesting funny cat videos.
Right, and it doesn't stop there. AI is also being used more and more to moderate comments, try to filter out hate speech and bullying and create a more positive environment for discussion.
That makes sense. I mean, things can get pretty toxic online sometimes.
Yeah, and then you've got the whole phenomena of AI-generated influencers, these entirely virtual personas created and managed by algorithms. They post pictures, write captions, even interact with followers, and they're gaining real traction. It's really blurring the lines between what's human and what's machine-made.
Okay, that is kind of mind-blowing and a little unsettling, honestly. I mean, it makes you wonder what happens to human creativity and real connection if algorithms are calling all the shots.
That's the big question, isn't it? How do we strike a balance between the benefits of AI and the things that make us uniquely human? Things like originality and authenticity.
It's a tough one, for sure. Now let's move on to another big buzzword that's been making the rounds, the metaverse. I think a lot of people still picture it as this clunky VR thing, but from what I've been reading, it's evolving into something much bigger.
Yeah, think of it less like a single virtual reality game and more like a whole interconnected network of virtual worlds where you can read, work, learn, play, all through your digital avatar.
So like a digital version of real life?
In a way, yes, but with possibilities that go way beyond what we can do in the physical world. For example, imagine attending a conference in the metaverse. You could teleport between presentations network with people from all over the world, even experience interactive product demos, all without leaving your home.
Okay, I can kind of see how that would be appealing, especially with how much remote work has become the norm.
Absolutely. And it's not just hypothetical anymore. We're seeing companies create virtual offices
Mm.
where employees can interact through their avatars, have meetings, collaborate on projects, all within this digital space.
So it's not just for gaming and entertainment, it's actually becoming a real work tool.
Right. And the fact that companies like Nike, Gucci, even Meta are pouring huge resources into it shows that they're taking it seriously.
Wow, so this metaverse thing is really starting to gain momentum. But I have to ask, what about the potential downsides? I mean, we're already worried about people spending too much time online. What happens when you can literally live in a virtual world?
It's a valid concern, and it ties into this broader discussion we need to have about our relationship with technology.
Yeah.
As the metaverse becomes more immersive, more engaging, the risk of over-immersion becomes real. We need to think critically about how to use it in a healthy way that enhances our lives without disconnecting us from the real world.
That's a good point. It's all about finding that balance, right? Okay, so we've talked about AI and social media. We've talked about the metaverse. And now I want to shift gears a bit to online education, which has already seen such a dramatic transformation in recent years.
Yeah, the accessibility of education has exploded thanks to platforms like Coursera, Udemy, and of course YouTube. Millions of courses are now available online, covering pretty much anything you can imagine.
It's amazing, right? And now AI is starting to play a bigger role in how we learn online, too.
Absolutely. One of the most exciting developments is personalized learning, where AI analyzes your progress, identifies your strengths and weaknesses, and then tailors the lessons to your specific needs.
So it's like having a personal tutor who knows exactly how you learn best.
Exactly. Imagine an AI that adjusts the difficulty of your assignments, recommends specific study materials, or even changes the way information is presented to make sure you're really grasping the concepts.
That sounds incredibly effective. I mean, if it can help people learn faster and retain more information, that's a game changer.
Yeah. It has the potential to be, and it's just one example of how AI is changing the face of education.
Okay, so we've covered AI in social media, the metaverse, online education, and now I think it's time to connect all of this to the biggest shift of all the future of work.
Right. I mean, all these technologies are already influencing how we work, and it's only going to accelerate from here.
Yeah, we're seeing more remote work, more freelancing, more people building careers entirely online.
Exactly. And tools like Zoom, Slack, Notion, they become essential for collaborating with teams all over the world. We're even seeing the emergence of virtual offices where everyone works together in a digital environment.
It's fascinating, but also a little daunting. I mean, what happens to traditional jobs as automation and AI become more sophisticated?
It's a valid concern, and there's no easy answer. As machines become capable of doing more tasks that were once done by humans, there will undoubtedly be some disruption in the job market.
So for all of us listening who are thinking about our careers, what skills do we need to focus on to stay ahead of the curve?
The key is to focus on the skills that are uniquely human, the things that machines can't easily replicate, things like creativity, problem-solving, critical thinking, and emotional intelligence.
Emotional intelligence, why is that so important?
Because it's about understanding and managing emotions, both your own and those of others. It's about empathy, communication, collaboration, all the things that make us human and allow us to connect with each other on a deeper level. Those are the skills that will be most valuable in the future workplace.
So it's not just about technical skills, it's about being human.
Exactly. And cultivating those human skills is something we can all do, regardless of our profession or background.
Okay, so let's sum up. We've talked about how AI is shaping social media, the potential of the metaverse, the evolution of online education, and the changing landscape of work. And I think the big takeaway here is that all these changes are interconnected. They're all part of this larger technological evolution that's shaping our world.
And as we navigate this evolving landscape, it's crucial to ask ourselves some tough questions. How do we balance the convenience of technology with the importance of human connection? How do we embrace the possibilities of the virtual world without losing sight of the real world? How do we use these tools to enhance our lives rather than letting them control us?
Those are big questions, and I don't think there are any easy answers, but I think by having these conversations, by thinking critically about the role of technology in our lives, we can make more informed choices and ultimately create a future that works for everyone.
Absolutely. And here's something for everyone listening to ponder.
Yeah.
As we become more reliant on technology, how can we also make sure to nurture those uniquely human skills,
Mhm.
those qualities that make us who we are, so we can not just adapt to this rapidly changing world, but thrive in it?
It's a challenge, but it's also an incredible opportunity to redefine what it means to be human in the digital age. On that note, we'll wrap things up for today. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.